All right, hello everybody. This is Nick Royce with Action Packed Millionaire Mentor Network, and today I'm here with Joe Millam,
Correct.
CEO of Angel Span here in Austin, Texas. Joe, we're going to be talking a little bit about what you guys do and a couple of tips and keys to success. Let's start off by why don't you tell us a little bit about what you guys do and how important your guys' business is to angel investors as well as entrepreneurs.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. Angel Span essentially provides investor relations for startups. Our clients are funded startups that have 6 to 8 outside investors that aren't the typical friends and family. It's that next round of investors you don't have personal relationships with. And as entrepreneurs raise money, it's so darn hard to raise the money. And after they finally get it, they want to go start building the business that they've had to sort of put on hold while they did the fundraising. And in that window of time, they oftentimes forget about how important it is to communicate back to those investors that have embraced your vision, want to see you succeed, and then oftentimes want to help. But entrepreneurs just overlook this, and then they get behind, and they're playing catch up. And the ultimate outcome is where they lose the goodwill, what we call the honeymoon period, that oftentimes takes place after an angel makes an investment. They want to be involved, and they want to be treated as somebody that's somewhat on the team. And that may be as simple as just a phone call every now and then, or proper communication is what the lessons that have been learned in the public markets of just consistent transparency of the operational success and updates. So that's what we do. It's monthly updates and quarterly reports and just the basic blocking and tackling with proper communication.
Yes, communication is very, very key, especially when they're looking to come back and get expansion capital from their investors. Do you find a lot of the times when people are trying to do that, they try to go back to get more capital, the investors like, hey, you haven't stayed in contact with us, we haven't seen your numbers, we don't know what's going on, so no, you can't have any more money. Have you ever seen that happen?
Yeah, I mean that is the cycle that gets repeated time and time again, unfortunately. Again, a part of it is because an entrepreneur doesn't realize the damage they're doing to that relationship by not communicating. They think that if they keep their head down and work real hard and do their best to build a business and make that investor money, that's good enough. And in fact, it's just the opposite. So yeah, it's very, very difficult to find money, and entrepreneurs complain about the funding gap and how difficult it is, and oftentimes it's their own fault.
Exactly. Yeah, because it's all about money, but regardless of how successful your business is going, if the investors haven't seen any numbers, they don't know what's going on, they're like, well, hey, we need to see something tangible, you know what I mean, that you guys are actually making profit before we give you another dollar. And that's where you guys come in. You guys help with that to bridge that communication gap.
Yeah, our monthly updates, and for early stage companies through seed and into the A round even, there's very little financial reporting that can be done to reflect the value that's being created through the entrepreneur's efforts and their team's efforts. So our monthly updates are actually crafted and informed by what's called the Bell Mason Diagnostic, which is a very rigorous startup life cycle roadmap, and that tracks the right milestones at the right stage of the startup life cycle. So that much of the monthly updates that we send out for our clients to their investors and non-investor stakeholders, the other people that may not have invested but are interested in their success and might become future investors. It's milestone based. It's the narrative of the operational progress that's being made and the effort that's being put forth and the successes that are coming from those sort of operational efforts. Typically, financial reporting drops into the quarterly report, and again, for early stage companies, it's how much cash do you have and what's your burn rate and when you're going to need more. It's really all that's terribly relevant.
Yeah. Now, not only is it beneficial to use you guys for the communication gap, but you guys are also tax benefit specialists. So get into more of that because this is pretty cool and this is very exciting, especially for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, this is something that's been near and dear to my heart for a long time. There are two specific tax codes that were passed to stimulate more investment in startups, to both de-risk startup investing. The first tax law was passed in 1958 as part of the Small Business Investment Company Act that virtually launched the venture industry. And it allows for, under the current code, the first $1 million of outside investors, angel investors, that invest in a startup to have what's called 1244 treatment. And what that means is that if the startup works real hard but doesn't succeed and they have to close the business, those investors don't have to deduct their losses against or capital gains. They don't have to take a capital loss. as you would if you sold a stock at a loss, if you will, a public stock. They actually deduct their losses against ordinary income, so it lowers their taxable income. And the nuances of a personal tax return is there's something called the adjusted gross income line. It's sort of inside baseball for accountants, but the AGI line is really below the line deductions are your itemized deductions. Above the line deductions are the most favorable deductions you can get short of a tax credit, a dollar for dollar reduction of your tax bill. 1244 losses are above the line, which simply means that an angel investor that finds something that's really meaningful to them and near and dear to their hearts that they want to invest in, even if that startup fails, they get a better tax deduction than if they gave an equivalent amount of money to charity.
Wow.
So heads, I make money on and profit from something that was important to me, and tails, it's better if I send it to my university or something that I'm sort of getting a little bored with just writing checks to every time they twist my arm.
Right. Can you give us just a couple of keys to your success? Of course, you don't have to talk about every single up and down that you've had, but just a couple of condensed, like what can aspiring entrepreneurs do and expect on this road to entrepreneurship, and how can they overcome some of those things, some of those pitfalls that are going to come up?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of original thought there. It's the usual things. Angel Span is the second time I've done this. The first time failed. Failure, what is unique to our culture in America is that failure can be embraced because of the lessons that are typically learned through failures. If you don't learn a lesson, they are a failure. If you learn lessons, then it's just experience. And so I think that it's for entrepreneurs, persistence is absolutely critical. And be doing it for reasons other than money. Smart investors will ferret that out, that you're just trying to do it for money. You're going to make decisions at the margin when nobody's looking that's going to put your interest ahead of theirs if you're doing it just for the money. You have to be doing this for reasons other than the money. That's what's been driving me. My team is all on board because they want to have an impact, in our case, on the entrepreneurial ecosystem itself. We've all experienced, in certain levels, certainly Brian and I both, this information gap that we're trying to solve. So it really is firsthand experience that that is informing and basing and motivating why we're doing this and how we're going about building a company based on that experience. So that would, I guess, be the other thing I would suggest is find something you're passionate about based on your own life experience.
Exactly. When people sometimes say, I'm self-made success, blah 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 blah, I kind of look at them and I'm like, no, people made you successful.
Yeah.
And in regards to people, having a good team also makes a company as well. So, can you embellish a little bit on the importance of having a good team?
Yeah, it's very cliche, but it's also probably the most important because with Angel Span, I actually had a co-founder that I had to let her go because it wasn't the right team. And that caused 6 months, 9 months of delay in us building out Angel Span. So that's the downside of making the wrong choices and assembling the wrong team. Entrepreneurism is, we call it spinning 12 plates at once. The founder or founders are spinning 12 plates and they're having doing lots at one time. And you want to minimize those plates falling, those figurative plates falling. Some things are out of your control, but many things are. And oftentimes the mistakes are made when people are in a hurry. Forming a company and choosing a partner, in my case, or other decisions throughout that sort of startup life cycle. But making the team decision and finding the right people that share your motivations, share your work ethic, share your DNA and your value systems is really, really important because when the going gets tough and one person feels like they're working harder or they're doing something that the others aren't pulling their weight, then resentment happens, and then all the typical foibles of the human condition start surfacing.
Gotcha.
And it just tears apart what otherwise might have been a very interesting idea and a very good company.
Now, when working with angel investors that you guys provide your service for, are you guys still currently seeking investors, or you can just offer your services to investors anywhere and everywhere, or?
Well, Angel Span, our fee-paying customers are the startups themselves.
Okay.
So they're the ones that pay us to provide the monthly updates and quarterly reports to send out to their audience of investors and stakeholders, track who's opened it, and report back to the CEO. And there's a lot of ancillary services. But the funded startups are our customers. But we're finding the greatest amount of sort of embracing of our service are the investors, and particularly family offices, that are frustrated with the lack of information and carry far more authority in the eyes of that entrepreneur than we might,
Yeah.
because they're the ones either having written or maybe getting ready to write a check. And so our go-to-market strategy is really to inform these family offices on why they should expect transparency before they invest, how to mobilize on these tax codes, and there's a second one I'll come back to that's also very important. So make them better and smarter and more effective investors so that more money gets freed up to invest in more startups, because that's what startups need.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, talk a little bit more about that second tax benefit because that is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Honestly, go ahead.
Yeah, this is one that's got a little bit more attention. 1244, it's startling at how few people know about 1244. It's just been falling through the cracks. It's been in the books a long time. It's just not been underutilized. The other tax code is called Section 1202, and it was passed in 93, and there's a little bit more awareness around this one, particularly because late last year, as part of the PATH Act, which was the last budget and tax legislation that was passed, they took 1202 and that will have a profound impact. Specifically, 1202 is very favorable treatment on profits. So 1244 de-risks it on the way in to minimize, to lower the after-tax risk on those companies that fail. 1202 allows for very favorable treatment on the profit, so more money is left to reinvest after there's an exit. And for years, it allowed for an angel investor that had invested in a C Corp startup that realized a positive outcome or an exit. If that exit happened after a 5-year holding period, didn't happen right away in a quick flip, but actually a substantial investment where they had to wait around a long time before they got the exit, they could exclude half their profits from taxes. And that's really how the code stood for a long time. And then there was some modest tweaking through the years since 93. But last year in the PATH Act, December 18th it was signed, the 1202 exclusion on profits were made 100% tax-free and permanent. And what that allows for is if you invest in a C Corp startup and hold it 5 years and have an exit, you don't have to pay taxes in the first $10 million of profits.
Wow. Or
10 times your cost basis, whichever's higher. And it qualifies, a much greater amount of investors' dollars qualify for 1202 treatment. So if I'm part of the first $1 million in a C Corp, I get 1244, but I can be as late as this B and C round and still get this favorable treatment on the profits. So if I invest $3 million in a company that's got a $10 million raise, and it qualifies, and it's not that difficult to qualify for 1244, then I don't have to pay tax on $30 million of profits, 10 times my cost basis of $3 million.
Nice.
Those are tax codes that are really interesting to these family offices because they want to write more, invest more, and they typically write bigger checks as well.
Yeah. So you guys, let's say somebody's getting a startup put together, you guys can help the entrepreneurs that are starting up kind of put their plan together with those benefits and stuff like that.
Yeah, we're not that engaged at the formation. Our clients tend to be fully formed. They've gotten some modest amount of outside money beyond friends and family. We have a few entrepreneurs that are sort of serial entrepreneurs that are forming their second or third company, and they know this is important to get right, so they're hiring us and paying for it out of their own pocket before they've even raised money.
Gotcha.
But by and large, our clients are already funded, and what we've had already happen with a number of clients is that as they're going for their next raise, they incorporate a couple of the monthly updates that we've produced for them in the past as part of their pitch deck. That communicates a level of granular traction that you typically don't put in your pitch deck. But it also shows these potential investors just how they will be communicated to if they choose to invest.
Mm-hmm.
And that has led to, and we have some wonderful testimonials on how it literally led to people writing checks right then because they said, we've never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
Nobody communicates like this. And that
Wow.
just makes and shows that entrepreneur is really punching above their weight and showing they're just a much more responsible entrepreneur than the typical startup.
Exactly.
So.
Well, Joe, what's your guys' website? Where can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, we're at angelspan.com or info@angelspan. They can send us an email if they'd like more information. We obviously would love to chat with startups and the family offices and want to learn more about the tax laws. We've got some wonderful summaries on them. We also have CPAs that are available and on call to walk anybody through those laws if they think that they might apply. We've got some wonderful counsel with real tax experts and CPAs that actually do your tax returns. We don't do tax returns, but we can just educate both the entrepreneurs and the angels about those.
And you also do talks. You go to family offices and give talks about tax benefits, stuff like that. So if somebody
Yeah.
from a family office wanted to get in touch with you to have you come do a talk, you'd be possibly available for something like that.
Absolutely. I've done a number of them around the country. I was just in Palo Alto talking to the My CFO group, $40 billion multifamily office, speaking to 18 of their tax experts on these tax laws.
Wow.
The Tiger 21 organization that has chapters around the country, I'll be speaking to them soon. There's a number of these family office forums. And the conversation is really just an educational conversation around, again, both the how to utilize these tax codes to de-risk it on the way in, lower the after-tax risk, and raise the after-tax returns.
Nice.
And there's some other topics we talk about typically for family offices or groups that might have family foundations. There's some very interesting laws that allow for personal family foundations to invest in startups as well and not violate their fiduciary responsibilities as trustees of that foundation. So it's called mission-related or program-led investing.
Okay.
And that's another area where I find there's a lack of education and awareness and utilization. When these families have a foundation, they're giving it away to causes that are meaningful to them. They could also invest in meaningful causes to them through program-led investing in startups.
Nice. I'm going to include a link to your guys' website underneath this podcast video. But what's a good number that people can contact you at?
You can reach me at 916-599-6200. That's my
And
cell phone.
Is that your cell phone?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So you can contact Joe directly.
We embrace transparency. We provide it ourselves.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, and we'll come back sometime in the future when we have more time to interview, because you just have just a vast array of knowledge on these subjects, which are very, very important to entrepreneurs as well and investors and family offices. So, Joe, thank you very much, and we will see you again.
All right.